The Odyssey, by Homer. The sea stretched endless before Odysseus, king of Ithaca, its waves whispering secrets of gods and monsters. For 10 years, he had fought in the Trojan War, his cunning securing victory with the wooden horse. Now, another decade into his journey home, he was a man battered by fate, his heart heavy with longing for his wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus. The gods, capricious as ever, had other plans. Odysseus stood on the deck of his last remaining ship, his crew weary and diminished. They had sailed from Troy with 12 ships and hundreds of men, but storms, beasts, and divine wrath had whittled them down. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a strange island appeared, its shores lush with lotus flowers. Desperate for provisions, Odysseus sent 3 men to scout. They returned, eyes glazed, chewing sweet petals, their minds clouded. "Forget Ithaca," one murmured. "Stay here, where pain is a dream." The lotus eaters, gentle but insidious, offered oblivion. Odysseus dragged his men back to the ship, tying them to the benches as they wept for the flowers. He knew the gods tested him, and he would not falter so easily. The sea carried them next to a rugged island, where they found a cave stocked with cheese and sheep. Odysseus, ever curious, led his men inside, ignoring their pleas to take the bounty and flee. Soon, the cave's master returned, a cyclops, Polyphemus, son of Poseidon. His single eye gleamed as he sealed the entrance with a boulder and devoured 2 of Odysseus's men, their screams echoing in the dark. Odysseus's mind raced. Brute force would not prevail. He offered Polyphemus wine, claiming his name was nobody. The Cyclops, drunk and trusting, fell into a stupor. Odysseus and his men sharpened a stake and drove it into the monster's eye, blinding him. Polyphemus roared, calling for aid, but when his kin asked who harmed him, he bellowed, "Nobody." They left him to his pain. At dawn, Odysseus and his men clung to the bellies of sheep, escaping as the Cyclops led his flock out. But as their ship sailed away, Odysseus's pride overcame him. "I am Odysseus of Ithaca," he shouted. Polyphemus hurled a boulder, nearly sinking the ship, and prayed to Poseidon, cursing Odysseus to wander lost for years. The sea god heard, and the waves grew crueler. Storms drove them to the island of Aeolus, keeper of the winds. Aeolus gifted Odysseus a bag containing all the tempests, ensuring a safe voyage home. For 9 days, they sailed within sight of Ithaca's cliffs, but greed undid them. Thinking the bag held gold, the crew opened it, unleashing a hurricane that flung them back to Aeolus. The wind god, angered by their folly, cast them out. Next, they landed among the Laestrygonians, giant cannibals who sank 11 ships and devoured their crews. Only Odysseus's ship escaped, limping to the island of Circe, a sorceress with golden hair and a voice like honey. She welcomed them, but her feast turned half the crew into swine. Odysseus, warned by Hermes, resisted her magic with a sacred herb. Sword drawn, he demanded his men's release. Circe, intrigued by his resolve, restored the men and became his lover. For a year, they lingered in her halls, feasting and forgetting their woes. But Ithaca called, and Circe, softened, guided them. "Seek Tiresias in the underworld," she said. "Only he can chart your path." Odysseus sailed to the edge of the world, where the sun never rises, and offered blood to summon the dead. Tiresias, blind prophet, warned him, "Avoid the cattle of the sun god Helios, or all will perish. Your home is overrun by suitors, but you will reclaim it if you temper your pride." The shade of Odysseus's mother appeared, her death a fresh wound, and Achilles, glorious even in death, spoke of mortal struggles. Heart heavy, Odysseus returned to the living. Circe's warnings followed, beware the sirens, whose songs lure men to death, and the twin perils of Scylla and Charybdis. Odysseus ordered his crew to plug their ears with wax and tie him to the mast. The sirens' voices, sweet as Penelope's, promised knowledge and glory. Odysseus strained against the ropes, begging release, but his men held fast, rowing past the jagged rocks. Next came the strait. Charybdis, a whirlpool, threatened to swallow the ship, while Scylla, a 6-headed monster, lunged from her cliff. Odysseus, torn, kept silent about Scylla to spare his men despair. 6 were snatched, their screams haunting him as they sailed on. Exhausted, they landed on Thrinacia, island of Helios's sacred cattle. Odysseus, heeding Tiresias, forbade touching the herd, but starvation broke his men's resolve. While he slept, they slaughtered the cattle. Helios's wrath was swift. Zeus struck the ship with a thunderbolt, sparing only Odysseus, who clung to wreckage for days. Washed ashore on Ogygia, Odysseus found Calypso, a nymph of divine beauty. She offered immortality and love, but his heart remained with Penelope. For 7 years he lingered, torn between comfort and duty, until Athena, his divine patron, pleaded with Zeus. Hermes delivered the god's command, release Odysseus. Calypso, weeping, built him a raft, and he sailed once more. Poseidon, still vengeful, sent a storm that shattered the raft. Odysseus, near death, was saved by the sea nymph Ino and washed ashore on Scheria, land of the Phaeacians. Nausicaa, the princess, found him, naked and broken, and brought him to her parents' court. There, Odysseus revealed his name and tale, his words weaving a spell over the Phaeacians. They gifted him a ship, and at last he reached Ithaca. Disguised as a beggar by Athena, Odysseus assessed his home. Suitors, 100 strong, caroused in his hall, wooing Penelope and squandering his wealth. Telemachus, now a man, had grown under their shadow. Athena guided father and son to reunite, their embrace fierce with years of loss. Together they plotted. Penelope, faithful but weary, announced a contest. String Odysseus's great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads. None could bend the bow. Odysseus, still a beggar, stepped forward. The suitors mocked, but Telemachus silenced them. With ease, Odysseus strung the bow and shot true. The hall fell silent. Then, with Telemachus and loyal servants, he struck. Arrows flew, swords clashed, and the suitors fell, their blood staining the hall. Antinous, their leader, died first, an arrow through his throat. Eurymachus pleaded, but mercy had no place here. Athena's aegis shielded Odysseus as he cleansed his home. Penelope, cautious, tested him. "Our bed," she said, "has been moved." Odysseus's eyes flashed. "Impossible, its post is a living tree, rooted in the earth." Only he could know this. Penelope's reserve broke, and they fell into each other's arms, their tears mingling. The years melted away, though scars remained. The next day, Odysseus sought his father, Laertes, broken by grief in his orchard. Their reunion mended old wounds, but the suitors' kin sought vengeance. Athena, ever watchful, brokered peace, ensuring Ithaca's harmony. Odysseus, home at last, stood on his cliffs, the sea before him no longer a foe, but a reminder of his trials. His journey had carved him into something more than a man, a legend, tempered by loss, love, and the gods' caprice. Ithaca, small and rugged, was his world, and he would never leave again.